Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Eddie Marcus here again, spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people. You know, I've been telling you for quite some time about certain things about life, etc., etc. And I have, on several occasions over the years, mentioned how I got into this business. Starting like, oops, how I got into this business. And I would like to share with you, those of you who are new. I grew up in Mississippi. Mississippi is considered the poorest state in the union, and you can understand why. They're racist. They're bigots. The evil down in Mississippi is crazy. I mean, it is crazy. They're down in Jackson, Mississippi, with black people in the city, and they want to control the police department. They want to. I mean, just like they did back in slavery days. Well, it never left, but they want to make sure that it is obvious. Down in Mississippi, I remember the first time I came home from school and they had installed a toilet and a sink where you can wash in a tub, you can take a bath. Goodness gracious. Man, that was something exciting. I'm just thinking about that. It was an exciting moment in time. It was a change. Talk about not having to go outside to an outside toilet. I remember the time we got that first telephone. You could pick up telephone and call somebody. Wow, amazing. What I'm trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, I grew up in poverty. I grew up as poverty people. And down south, we went to church all the time. I guess that started because one of the things, the only recreation you had for many people coming back through those periods in time was just going to church. Going out, hey, well, depending on where you live, that was restricted to a very small limit. And so it was my introduction to life. I saw change. I saw and listened to people talk about the superpower of God. And I saw people say one thing, act another. And so I remember we got our first television as well. But watching television, seeing things that you used to see in the newspaper and magazines, and now you begin to dream that one day you can live like this. You want ambition. You got ambitions. You want money. You want the money so you can ride in cars like you want to. You can dress like you want to, go where you want to, fly like you want to. I mean, money opened the doors for you, so you wanted that. But there were only a few jobs, as far as young people knew, that paid that kind of money. And you saw that in people advertising. You saw that in people on television. You saw that in people on radio. Teachers and stuff like that going to school. No, they had a little bit more than the average Joe Blow. But nobody wanted to go through that. We want to go through the real deal. And so I had my ambitions. You know, I thought, pretty good. I wasn't shy. I grew up singing in the church choir. I remember my first solo as a little boy, singing "On a Hill Far Away," stood an old rugged cross. Man, I remember that. I remember my first play in elementary school. Little boy blue, come blow your horn. The sheep's in the meadow, the cows in the corn. I remember that just good, and did what was that? Beverly Hillbilly thing one time, I believe, in the 6th grade. And then you start going to high school and you start getting in plays because you love it. You love it. I mean, you love it. And you get into other things, but I just want to mention that entertainment thing because it was putting me out there. I'm dreaming and I'm still seeking. So then I happen to get a music scholarship to go to college. But I'm still interested in acting, so I act in college. I mean, we just act, and I'm just digging this because I'm planning to go to Hollywood, and I'm going to take Denzel. I didn't know too much about him at that time, but I was going to take Sidney Poitier's place, and if I had to, I was going to kind of deal with Michael. Boy, crazy, wasn't it? But anyway, when I got out of school, I was married. I got married early, and my wife was living in Chicago, so rather than go to Hollywood, I'd go to Chicago and do some stuff in Chicago. You know, I started DJing and performing in nightclubs. But at the same time, I got a job. I got a job as a counselor with the Veterans Administration. Now, that was a respectable job. Put your suit on. Somebody. But there was during the time guys were coming back from Vietnam. And you saw the kind of troubles that people were going through. The troubles that their survivors might have to go through because of the troubles that happened to them while they were in service. And so by dealing with that community, you put you in the middle of a bigger community where you got a chance to see poverty crime and violence becomes really rampant. You see it a little bit more obvious than before. And so now I'm troubled about what I'm going to do about this. How can I adjust this? Something has got to be done. I was raised up thinking about something being done about that. So I decided that I'd better play a role in that. And being a counselor was not going to help me. Somebody need to speak out for the poverty, for the pains and suffering of society. And it must going to have to be me. And why did I say that? Because I wanted to be, I just told you I want to be the star. I want all the cranberry and stuff that come with it. And here now something's on my mind about doing something else. And it hit me that, well, what about I think it came to me kind of strange like. It says, look, rather than going to Hollywood getting on a stage, why not get on the world's biggest stage? That's the world stage, speaking for all people. And rather than a script being written, write the script from day to day and what has got to be done to achieve what you're trying to do. Now, I didn't know what that was, but it sounded like a nice plan, just to do the work of love. And I realized that if I were doing it, I couldn't be like the preachers, See, I was taught that many people might believe Jesus and his disciples were rich. I was taught that they were poor. Not that they walked in poverty and gave poverty a high up. No, it was that people in poverty because of a reason. And you don't sell out to get out of poverty. And so that was my thing. So I'm thinking, okay, now, no big houses, no nice cars, no fine suits. How am I going to deal with this? Well, if you have to work a job that pays minimum wage, a little small price just to get by. Not trying to do anything but get by. And then I realized that even that might get complicated sometimes. So while I was making my decision, I went on a fast where during a period of time, all I would do would get grass from the side of the road, on the street, someplace in the backyard, in the field, get some grass and mix it with some onion and cook it. And I'd cook that grass with onion and I'd eat that grass for over a period of time, maybe a week and a half. And for a beverage, I'd drink my own pee. And the reason I do that, so if things ever got that tight, before I turn my back on what God has given me to do, before I turn my back on telling people how much God loved them and how much God is prepared for them, how they're being abused, before I change my mind and not do that, before I change my mind and say, well, I'm going back into the world and just do what they do so I can have my car stuff, before I do that, I live off grass and pee. And I wanted to prove that I could do it, that it would work, that it wouldn't kill me. So in that period of time, it worked and didn't kill me. So I ended up, I guess you know that relationship ended. And I ended up going to the Navy. I went into the Navy just to breathe again. To breathe again. And I got a chance to get some exposure, got a chance to see other parts of the world, got a chance to engage with other people and talk with other people about ideas that I had. And listen to their conversation to see where their heads were at, where their hearts and minds were at. And then when I finally couldn't take the Navy anymore, I decided that I wanted to leave it. But I wanted to leave because one of the things, Ronald Reagan had been president, and I know Americans loved Ronald Reagan, especially the conservatives and all of that. And I'm not knocking you for loving Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan worked well for you, but Ronald Reagan did not work well for the poor people. And poor people didn't feel about Ronald Reagan the same way you did, and I didn't. And when Ronald Reagan had policies dealing with foreign nations, to me it was despicable wearing that uniform. I was embarrassed. And so I decided I wanted to get out of the Navy, not honorably, not like everything was cool. I wanted to come out of the Navy as I was discontented with it. And I wanted to use that as my record, that I stood against what was happening through our government. And so I got that. I might not have an Oscar, but I got that saying this joker wasn't playing it. Anyway, I came out. And still, when I came right out, I went to, still looking for something to do. I went back to Mississippi, the poorest state in the Union, and I worked at a university, Mississippi Valley State University, university doing some recruiting for a while. I did that for about a year. Then I came to Minnesota. And when I came to Minnesota to really engage myself wherever I went. There was another special purpose I came to Minnesota for. I'll mention maybe some other time. But what I wanted to do was champion what I'd been given to do. And so in Minnesota, I started a radio broadcast, Love Ministry, Life of Victory Eternal. I did that for about a year or so. Then I changed the other program. I got the Moment of Truth. The messages didn't change. These are different titles and subject matters, but the message was the same. Then I went from Paradise on Earth Unlimited. That was cable. I mean, we're moving up. I'm seeing this stuff bright. But see what has happened before this movement, I was on that pulpit thing, preaching. And people constantly saying, ask God for this, ask God for this, ask God for this, ask God for that for me. And you do it. And people constantly coming back. So you go, wait a minute, these prayers not being answered, you go back to God and ask God why. And God gives you an answer. The things that I'm not doing, I've given them the ability and the wherewithal to do it themselves. Doing it themselves means they got a relationship with me. So, and I went back and told, but people wasn't looking for that. People been told that you got to receive stuff by the struggles of your brow. You got to be sweating, you got to be hustling. See, that's one of the part of the tricks that was played on us. And so when it comes down to God, they expect God to work miracles. Either for somebody to just come by and drop it off to you, or just change. God will say, no, there are things that you got to do. You know, you got to care about one another. Simple thing really is to do unto others, care about others as you have others care about you. Simple. I mean, we can make it as complicated as we want, but it's as simple. It's knowing what's right and what's wrong. And so I was sent around the country, you know, on the street corners, talking to folks, going into church services, talking to people, going into their discussions, talking with people, going to find out, you know, since I'm broke now, I ain't got no money, I'm just traveling on faith, asking people for a little gas to get from one state to another, stopping by shelters to eat, or saving 10 or 15 cents so I can stop at a service station and get a candy bar or something. But just traveling and writing, keeping records. And the message that I was taught, ladies and gentlemen, is that people, whether they know it or not, are wonderful. They are absolutely wonderful, all of them. But at the same time, they are despicable. Every last one of them. That's what I learned. Now, why and how could I learn that? I would learn that because this is the world that they live in. The only thing that's permitted here is what subjects itself to the system. The system is designed to do exactly what it does. Here in America, in Russia, in China, in North Korea, they do exactly what they're designed to do. And every last one of them are designed to take away from God, to put God somewhere out of sight, out of mind. But then they replace him. And everything that they do will cause pain and suffering. I mean, there might be some that got and some that don't. There will always be people who benefit because they follow the plan of the day. But there will be those that suffer. You can't eliminate that unless you make changes. And those kinds of changes they're not going to make. They might make a few changes. That's why they switch from Republican to Democrat administrations, where they can make one or two little changes. And then a little bit of time pass, they can switch that back. All that kind of old crazy stuff. But this is what goes on. So the Lord was telling me, hey, there's a world of evil and there's a world of righteousness. He said, it brought it to memory about that broad way and that wide gate that leads to destruction that everybody seems to be on. That straight and narrow path that requires an individual thing with the truth, with your way of life. Nobody, no big organization has control over your life. You can give it. America doesn't have control over your life. You can give it to America, but you still got it. And if you were a child led by the Spirit of God, anything that America that you had accepted, that it's in conflict with that of God, you reject. But if what is happening plays a major role in your life and now it is lost because of this decision, then you have to expose that and reveal which is proper. That's what you have to do. Ain't no kibble ands about it. That's just like the sun coming out. I mean, it might have been dark, but when the sun comes out, His light. And so, you know, what I have been doing over these 40 years is trying to find ways to say this to you so that you will understand that we all living in darkness. I heard of guys today talking about how God has blessed him. I ain't had nothing, and he struggled and go through all kinds of change and tell God this and that, and God said, I'm going to show you something, I'm going to bless you. And God blesses him. God blesses him, and he just thanks God for his blessings. And then when you hear a person talk about God like that, and then you listen to me talk about God, then that person that just got through telling you about God will cuss me out, because to him everything he got came through God. But see, the reason that he can accept that is because he can accept what he has, and at the same time look around at all the poverty and crime and violence, and big deal. They go get on their knees and pray to God too. Well, see, he doesn't realize that whatever he's doing, whatever he's benefiting from, it comes because the system allows it, because it falls in line with what the system is perpetuating. That's how people who making all this money. I mean, athletes, that's nothing great. You just playing ball. We do that all the time when we were kids. But now they're making hundreds of millions of dollars. Why? Because there's a game that's going on. There's an exploitation that's going on. Movie stars, we act all the time and get on the streets and act. Well, what's with the money? It's a game going on, something used to exploit, to deceive and set up, to bring you to the point where everybody goes straight to hell because they've been so blinded. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I'm telling you how you can have heaven, and you can watch some of my other videos and they will tell you it is simple as 1, 2, 3. But you just look at America. Let's just say for America, for instance. America has been sold the bill of goods that you ain't nothing unless you got some money. And everybody who got a little bit of anything is trying to get some money. And you're being held up as being somebody special if you get some money. And yet in so many forms and fashion, to get that money can put you in such devastating, dire situations. But it's about getting the money. What do you think the movie stars, the athletes, the CEOs, everybody with these humongous bank accounts or assets, wealth, what do you think when I come to you and tell you that money is a bait, and it's as dangerous as a worm on a hook for a fish, and just like that fish bit into that bait, got grabbed by that hook, when you jump into that money game, you just like that hook. You've been grabbed just like that hook. And you can shake and shake and shake, but you still thinking you got to pay your rent. You got to hopefully pay your car note. If not that, you got to at least get some food. If not that, you got to at least live. And so you still riding onto that hook because you don't see any way to escape. The only way to escape is for somebody to come take you off, or somebody to have mercy on you, pull you up by that thing, disconnect you, and throw you back in the water. And you know that ain't happening unless you just a dear bitty fish. But if a person comes along and tell you that you're hooked in the ways of the world, you're hooked in the ways of the world to the degree that you can go to the level of what the Republicans in the United States of America, the MAGA group, what they're trying to reduce you to. And I'm not talking about all of you, but they got millions and millions of people that's bought into that stuff. Even though they got evidence that indicates that they were sold a bunch of goods, that they were sold lies and lies. They are saying it doesn't matter that they were sold lies. That was them anyway. They just needed somebody to help them wake up. And they woke up in that darkness. And yet there are those who say, well, I'm not ready to go there yet. And so we become what? Democrats or something in between. You're not ready to do the right stuff, but you're not ready to go down that hole that deep. So you pretend like you somebody special. We're Democrats. We care. We're going to make sure that you get some relief. Relieve some of your health care bills. Maybe relieve some of your education bills and debts. That we want to try to make things a little better. What you mean try to make things a little better? Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Make sure that everybody got access to education. Oh, am I supposed to be talking about that? Well, you just make sure that those things that are important for people that they have decided is important for their lives as a group, as an individual, that those things that are essential, you design a program, a plan, a policy to cause it to happen just like you did the world we live in. This stuff didn't just happen. This hell is planned. And let's plan our way out of it. Well, anyway, I know this. For me to say this, all of these actors, all of these guys who got this money, would stand in a line and puke me down there with Donald Trump. And they'll kick me with Donald Trump if I try to mess with their money. Why? Because they have sold out the money. And they have made money acceptable in God's plan of life. But I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, there's no peace, prosperity, freedom, and joy, dreams being experienced by everyone. Their needs, their wants, and their desires are not being met at their leisure. And when that is not happening, they are not experiencing God. They are not living where there are no lies necessary, no guns necessary, no hatred, racism, big and all. They're not living there. Why? Because we're living in hell, all of us. And I've just given you a message so that I can affirm that you will already know that we're living in hell, and everything you're trying to do every day is not trying to get out of this hell. You are trying to find some comfort and more comfort in this hell. And you are, what? You are paying the price. What I call it? You're living. There's a word that I use some other. I wish that